My name is Pete, and welcome to my garage. Welcome back to Pete's Garage, where today we're going to make some engine mounts for this thing. If you're new to the channel, I am swapping an LQ4 into my 2002 BMW 525i. It originally had an inline 6 BMW engine, and now we're going to be adding a 6-liter LS engine with a 4L80E transmission. And you can see the links up above. I'll link to those videos. I just finished making the transmission mount. Now we're going to work on engine mounts to get this thing solidly mounted in there, and then we can start building some headers after that. All right, before I can make these engine mounts, I need to make sure they are going to clear the AC compressor. The last project I did, I made the motor mounts without the AC compressor installed. That made it very difficult to fit an AC compressor in whenever it ran into the motor mounts. So instead of redesigning the motor mounts, I went ahead and just ran it without AC. I don't want to do that on this project. I want to run air conditioning because I think it will make the car a lot more enjoyable, even though I drove 4 years on the last setup and it was pretty damn enjoyable. So anyways, this will make it a little bit better having AC. So I need to make sure the AC compressor is going to fit and I can build the motor mounts so they don't interfere with the AC compressor. All right, so I've got the engine sitting in place where I want it. I got everything shimmed because I want to get the engine as low as possible and back as far as possible because hood clearance is going to be a problem with the blower. So if I get it lower, then I'll be better off. However, one thing I am running into, I want to run the factory LS AC compressor here. And what I'm finding is where it bolts to the block over here on the side, I can't get it all to quite line up. Now my power steering line here, I can kind of remove that and get it out of the way because I got to redo the power steering lines anyway. However, on the steering gear, I do have this spot right here for the power steering pressure hose that runs from my spool valve over here to this side of the rack to push it over. Now, it does look like the bottom of my compressor here, or the bracket or something, might be hitting, and maybe I just need to shave some off here. Just need to shave some off here to make it fit. But in order to do this, I'm just going to unbolt the compressor from this. It looks like the compressor will fit. It's just this bracket at the bottom. And I need to see, do I need to... I can't really do anything with this fitting. It's about as small as it gets. But maybe I just need to clearance this bracket a little bit. So, if you look, we do have where the bolt goes through. So there's going to be a threaded hole right there for the tensioner. And then over here, I might be able to notch this out right there. I'll have to see. Okay. Now let's see where our clearance issue is going to be. Okay, I can almost get that bolt in there right there. Wow, this is actually kind of close. And you can see we're hitting right in there on that line. It's like I can almost notch this up a little bit, up and over. I'll have to see what I can do there. I'm going to make a mark on there where it's hitting with it all lined up, which is pretty much just right there on that edge. And I'm just going to have to grind that out just a little bit. Okay. Getting somewhere. Make a mark around it now. Okay. Now I kind of got it in there a little further. It looks like I need to make a little more mark up, but really, it's just mainly where I'm already at. Just kind of take a little bit more out of it. All right, let's see how good we are now. Ooh. All right, I think I can bolt it up now, but man, it is really close. All right, you can see we're really close. I think I just need to grind it out just a tiny bit more, but I think I'll have my clearance on a little bit more than I have right there, but it's looking pretty good. Underneath the tensioner, that looks good. I don't think it's going to touch. I think we're going to be okay. Man, I really dodged a bullet right here, because man, I was a little worried I wasn't going to be able to use this factory setup, but I like the fact that it's down there where the factory BMW setup is. Let me make sure my compressor fits in there. Now, when I build my engine mounts and I go from this plate right here down to that engine mount, I do need to make sure that I don't hit my AC compressor right there, because it is close. It is definitely close to that engine mount. However, I got room and it'll work. I said in the end of my last video that my buddy Matt is going to be helping me out on this. He actually has a CNC laser at his work, and he's going to help me cut out the pieces so I can have much nicer looking pieces for this engine mount here. I'll bring in the cardboard templates. We will then use the CNC laser to cut out our pieces, and then I will bring them back here, put them in place, and weld them together in the perfect spot to where I can get this engine solidly mounted. Let's get to making some cardboard templates. Luckily, I order enough crap from places online that I can come up with boxes. Alright, so first things first, down here on my engine mounts where I have them on the frame, I need to make a plate that goes over this that I'm going to then mount my pieces to. Matt has already made me some plates that go onto the engine for this application, so I can then just make a cardboard plate for down here. I'll make a cardboard plate for that, and then I just got to make my pieces that go up like that, and then we'll fill it in with other pieces. And this should be pretty easy. I just don't want to make it too big to where I can't fit my headers in very well, because I'm going to have the engine mount coming down something like, well, it's going to fill in the gap somewhere right around here. And so the header off of this side has to come up and over the mount. And it's pretty much only cylinder number 2 on this side that's going to have to do that. Cylinder 4 will have to come out a little bit, but not too bad. So I just need to make a spot. How wide should I make these? I mean, in reality, the width that it only needs to be is about the width of this mount right here. Maybe I'll just go a tiny bit wider. Plates that I'm going to be putting them on, I'm just going to go a tiny bit wider than that mount is, so I can weld my plates to it. And let me just make my first cut here. Now whenever I make this, I want to make it to where I can have access to this nut that's going to be on the top right there. So I want to make sure I've got enough room. It's going to be something like that. Okay, there's that. Now I am just going to drill a hole through my cardboard so I can mount it over there so then I can connect the dots. It's pretty easy. That looks like a 10 millimeter by 1.5, so if I make that, let's say 7/16 of an inch, should be good. And since I have the same engine mount on the other side, I am just going to duplicate this piece for the other side so I can have two of them. Okay, so this compressor's on there where it's going to go. I have room behind it. I got probably, what, a 1/2 inch or something like that. So that's good. Now I just need to make some pieces that are going to connect there. Now that's going to be a little bit more difficult than it seems. But the nice thing is that cardboard's cheap. Okay, so now if I stick this piece in here where it goes onto that mount, and if I trace, so that's going to sit something like that. Trace along there. Something like that. I'm going to make that cut. Let's just see what we can do there. Alright, so there, that won't move. And I can see whether or not I got room for the nut. Alright, so this is going to sit on there like that. I want it to come to about right there. So I've got my piece here. Here's my cutout to where it goes over the mount. And then up here is where it goes to the actual engine plate. And I just need to make a line between the two. And I need to cut that. Alright, so this plate is going to come off of there, and then it's going to go up to the mount. Now I need to see how big the mount is. Alright, how big is the plate? Looks to be about 4 inches. Alright, so here's the top of that plate. Man, looks like we're about 4 inches as it is. So I'll just go go from the corner of that to the corner of that. Yeah, I feel like I'm in like grade school art class again. Alright, so here's the rear of the plate. This will go on the bottom. This will go up to the motor mount. And we'll see how that fits. Alright, coming in here. Look at that. Bam, that's going to fit good right there. Okay. Now I just need to do something else about the same. Well, pretty much identical piece for this other part, even though they're not perfectly straight and perpendicular. Pretty close as far as angles go. Therefore, I can then make myself some motor mounts. We're going to need to make this times 2. I'm going to have them make it at 1/4 inch. Now we just got to move over to the driver's side, which is going to be basically the same thing. Alright, so I got to poke a hole in this one too so I can mount it down there. In fact, I'm just going to use the one from the other side because I'm going to have them duplicate the same thing. So therefore it's a lot easier to put it in the CAD program when all you got to hit is like ×2. Screw it down so it doesn't move. Now this side does not look like I have any problems with alternator clearance or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do this with the most clearance I can for headers. Alright, so I'm going to pull the alternator off for now, just to give myself some room, because I am not fighting alternator clearance at all on this side now that I moved that power steering hose. It's about the only thing I got to worry about on this side is power steering clearance, so with the hoses. In fact, I'm actually going to start with what I had on the other side, and let's just see how close it is. And that fits. Holy crap. And so does that. Turns out, I'm just going to have them make 4 of these. And 2 of those, and we got ourselves a set of motor mounts. And then I'll just make some pieces for the middle of it to brace it. Wow. Well, that was almost too easy. Now I just got to bring him over to his place and we'll use the laser to cut him out. So we need ×2 of these with a 10mm hole. And the hole placement doesn't have to be perfect because I'm welding this all up, and I just need ×4 of those. Alright, so I'm at my buddy Matt's place where they have a laser cutter, a CNC laser cutter, so we're going to cut out our motor mounts and so I can be able to weld them together. So I went out and purchased a nice piece of 1/4-inch thick steel plate so I can make some motor mounts out of the templates that we made last night. Alright, so our piece is loaded in the laser. So Joe took care of the CAD drawing for us and everything, so now we can place it on our plate and we can have it cut out. Laser beams. Look at that thing, it is huge. All for my little piece of plate right there. Alright, so I'm going to swap the lens out so we can, oh my god, that's the laser lens, huh?
Yeah, so it focuses the beam.
Damn. Alright, so we're switched out so we can cut a little bit thicker. This is the 190 lens, I guess, for the 1/4-inch. A little bit faster than I can do with a cutoff reel. not even hot.
It's not hot?
It's warm.
It's warm. Yeah, nice. All right. Beautiful. All right, now that was freaking cool. Went from that to a bunch of those and that. That plate, man, just cut it right out. That was awesome. After watching that laser at work, man, I just started thinking of all the little things that I can make with something like that if I had something like that at my disposal every day. That was pretty cool. And thank you to my buddy Matt for helping me out with that, because, man, that saved me a ton of time, and it will look so much better being laser cut than just cut off with a cutoff wheel. I could have done it with a cutoff wheel, but it would have taken forever. So now we can get to welding these things up. The main thing I need to worry about on this side over here is clearance to this AC compressor. And I need to also make sure that whenever I weld this plate on right here, that I don't, because it comes in at this angle, that I don't cut it too close to this bolt right here, so I can actually get these bolts out, because it would suck if they came out a little bit, hit the motor mount. So I need to give them just a little bit of room. That's better. I think before I make my other plate, I should probably finish weld this one in there, because it's tough to get on the inside, and then it'll make it easier for me to at least get half of this thing finished welded. All right, turns out I think I'm going to have to elongate this hole right here, and that's mainly so I can install these mounts while they're on the car. So if I elongate that hole, I can put the mount on and slide it down, because as you saw right there, if I wanted to get this mount off, I had to put it over the stud and then swing it into place. So that makes it pretty much impossible to get on there with it mounted in the car. Live and learn. I guess that needs to be slotted. So now that it's tacked together, I'm going to go ahead and burn this in. Alright, getting better at this yet. Now that I got the welder settings kind of figured out and everything, it's starting to look like I might know what I'm doing. One thing I do worry about is whenever I put the weight of the vehicle or the weight of the engine down on this, I probably should have taken some tension off of it, I assume, because I think it's going to sag down just a little bit. I want to make sure, like I said, I have enough room to get these bolts out. Really want to make sure I can get tools on them too. talking. Alright, that's going to hold some heat, but you can see the angle that that's at. Other ones that I've seen online, as far as these mounts, they're pretty straight. So this means I think my engine's a little further back than some of these other mounts end up putting them. And it's probably because I'm using this F-body oil pan instead of like an Autocraft oil pan. So I had to push the engine back just a little bit further to clear the cross member with the oil pan. That's good for me because that means that I have more room in front for all the supercharger bits and fan and everything like that. And that, you know, the further back you push it, the better your weight bias is and everything. And I got an iron block here with a supercharger I'm going to put on top. So it's going to be a little heavy. The further back I push it, the better off I am. I think this is going to work out. Now I need to move on to the other mount on the other side. So same thing. Now on this side, I don't have, you know, the alternator doesn't come back very far, so I really don't have anything in the way. I just need to make sure I leave plenty of room to snake some headers around. So this one, the far one over there, I need to make sure it's, you know, pretty low and everything. Alright, so I got that piece tacked in place. I'm just going to take the mount off and then I'm going to weld it, fully weld it, and then weld in the other piece. Okay, there's that. Now I just need to burn it in. To let that cool. I'll double check fitment on that before I put the other cross brace. Alright, so I elongated that hole mainly for installation purposes. The very top of that hole is still where the nut's going to go whenever it's installed, but now I can get it in there. I can slide it over the stud, put it in place, pull it down, and then I can get it bolted up, and then we should be in business. Alright, so that motor mount is in, and this motor mount is in. I just need to make some trim. I gotta trim a little pieces off of them. Alright, so we've got the engine mounts both in here. However, the engine is still resting on all the shims and everything. Now I'm going to lift the engine up off of these shims, and I'm going to pull them out. I don't know how much this is actually going to settle, and you can kind of see right here that I do have a gap where I've clearanced that, so I guess we'll see how much it actually settles. And then obviously I have the gap under the oil pan, so just turn the okay, here's the moment of truth. I'm going to let it down. Let's see what happens. Oh boy, the weight of it. Oh man. Okay, they did sag a little bit as it set down. Steering gear clearance. Oh man, it's tight. Oh man. Okay, I do have to pull this line back a little bit, but that's not a big deal. Wow, I got that really tight. Wow. It's very tight clearance to that steering gear. But, I wonder how much the motor mounts are going to end up sagging over time. You see, I kind of had to notch that out to be able to access that. Alright, so I let this thing sit on the mounts overnight, and it is really tight right there. It kind of sagged down a little bit more with the weight. So I still have probably, I kind of was thinking, it's with the blower, the lid, alternator, AC compressor, water pump, balancer, all the supercharger drive stuff, coolant and oil still has to go into this engine. That's probably close to 200 pounds worth of weight that's going to be on here. And literally, if I push down on this engine a little bit, I mean, it still moves down. That's just me like leaning on it. So I think I need to space these mounts up. I'll probably space them up another 1/8 of an inch or so. I'm going to add a plate on the bottom of it on both sides, and that'll space them up. All right, time to take it back apart. I knew I should have added some more shims to it to lift it up before I built the mounts, so therefore when it sagged down, I didn't think it would sag down this much. My last setup didn't do that, but I did have polyurethane mounts and I had slightly different setups. So I guess, you know, live and learn. Those mounts do kind of have a little cushion when you set them down. So looks like I need to do a little bit more work. Alright, so as you can see, I've added a 1/4 inch plate to the bottom of that mount to space it up. Obviously this isn't ideal and it's not making my mounts look too great, but you really probably won't be able to see it whenever it's sitting down there. Once I get all the welds cleaned up and painted and everything, it'll look a lot better. However, this will give me the clearance I need. So I center punched that hole right there. I'm going to re-drill through this other piece so I can slide it on there, and hopefully this will give me the clearances that I need. I just didn't know that those mounts were going to squash down that 1/4 of an inch or almost 1/2 of an inch. I thought I gave it plenty of room, you know, but they squashed down a lot more than I thought they were going to. Live and learn. All right, so my rack is on the stops. My engine is level. I don't know if you can see the bubble there. My engine is level. My motor mounts in here. You can kind of see the plate I added. I ran out of gas on the welder, so that weld looks like over here looks a little nicer. Down there I got the 1/4 inch plate added. You can see my clearance at my rack is a lot better, and here I have some clearance down there where on that bracket, so that's much better. So I'm pretty happy with that. Clearance all around is starting to look better. Alright, so I am going to have to paint the engine mount and the transmission mount, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and fabricate my headers and get those set up. So stay tuned next time whenever we build some headers. I'm Pete from Pete's Garage. Thanks for sticking with me, and we'll see you next time.